this story is? What was that?
I had something queued up, and then it got all pear-shaped in the computer.
It didn't work very well? Was that Raguse?
No.
Oh, I couldn't tell who that was.
Maybe for the next segment.
All right, maybe we'll get it for the next segment. A couple texts. Lou Raguse is our in-studio guest. His new book is out today, Mastermind, A True Story of Obsession, Survival, and Justice. Let me get to a couple of texts that I already reacting to our conversation of the last 30 minutes, some about the book, some others. Lou had book events for Vanish and Vermilion. Will you do the same with this book? Way to go, Lou. You make all us Lou's look good. That's Lou in Plymouth, who is taking, I guess, ownership over the fact that that's your first name. And it's not your stage name.
No, it's real.
It's a real name.
We went over that last time.
We did go after that, right? So it's like the perfect TV name. We talked about this, I think, off air. Book events yet to come? Anything yet announced, or will that be coming?
A lot of them like to wait until the book is actually out to even schedule stuff ahead of time. So, yeah, that is all to come. But definitely, especially I like speaking at libraries, so that'll be a big one.
Who's the publisher on this book?
It's called Post Hill Press.
That's a closed circuit for Andy Luger, who apparently was listening and wanted to get that part of it. Yeah, our good buddy. All right. No questions for Lou this time. At this time, writes Ryan in Minnetrista. Just want to say thank you for his work. Tough to find real journalism that follows stories and doesn't support a political party or particular storyline. I find Lou's work, through Lou's work, I can actually stay informed and understand what is happening in the Twin Cities and not just supporting the left or the right. Thank you for holding everybody accountable. I assume that's music to your ears.
Yeah, that's what I shoot for every day. And I mean, and I think that there's a craving for that because things have gotten so far left and far right, is that I just want somebody who's going to present it down the middle with starting from a point of neutrality and just see where the story goes from there.
Here's, I think, the way it goes, and maybe it's the way it kind of went for you. When you were doing a lot of good, hard reporting on Feeding Our Future scandals and some of those that followed, there were people, at least who would text us on the right side of the aisle, who were just, this is terrific reporting work. But then when you follow the story, maybe some ICE stories and some stories where suddenly the folks on the right are saying, well, wait a minute now, hold on a second. That's Lou Raguse. He was my guy in Feeding Our Future. You suddenly become the enemy. And that's what's sad about this, that they look at you differently, even though you're the same guy. You are the same reporter. Mm-hmm. It's just that they don't like a particular outcome. That's what it comes down to. I mean, for many people,
it's sad but true. Yeah, a lot of people gravitate to the content that will reaffirm what they already believe, and occasionally my reports might do that, depending on what the story is. But that's not how I approach it.
No, not even close to how you approach it. That's for sure. And we talked a little bit about this off air. I don't think we have on air. I felt there was a stretch of time where you were not as present on X, on Twitter. The old, I would forget what your handle is, and then I would try to type it in, and it wasn't coming up as easily. I'm going, what's going on? Well, there was a story behind that, correct? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I started getting a lot of messages that I wasn't covering, and ironically, it was that I'm not covering the fraud enough, because this came after the whole Nick Shirley videos and stuff like that. So the vitriol just started getting worse and worse and worse and more personal and more personal. And then they started, looking up my wife and targeting her business. She's a successful real estate agent. And that's when it was like, whoa, this is not worth it. And so I backed off for a little bit. And like most things, it blew over. And then I came back on.
And to a certain extent, no matter how big a cesspool X can be, you sort of have to be in the cesspool, right? I mean, it's still, given your position, you almost have to participate, do you not?
Yeah, I mean, and I do put my stuff across all the socials now, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, which I was never on before, and then YouTube Shorts now as well, and including X or Twitter, which I was always on. I was always very active on.
Are you on Bluesky? I call it Bluesky.
I'm on it. There's just not enough people on it to make it worth the time to go and keep posting on it. But when it comes to X, when I would love to just turn it off and say no, but then I'll hear from very influential people off the record that contact me about stories and stuff. And I saw your video on X. And I'm like, on X, or do you see it on Facebook? Do you see that on TikTok? Maybe they're like, no, on X. I'm like, well, that means I can't
leave it.
These people are not going to. I'm going to lose something if I leave it.
You have created something of an identity beyond just the KARE 11 reporting you've done with those videos, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's the average length of them? 2 minutes? 3 minutes?
Less.
Even less.
1 minute probably is an average.
Which is probably conscious. You do that very deliberately. How did you come to that? And are you surprised at how effective it's been and how big it has become? Because it's given you, I think, an identity above and beyond covering stuff on KARE 11.
It actually was a KARE 11 initiative. And so they want us to do more of these so that we can use them on our KARE 11 app, the vertical videos or reels or whatever people want to call them. But I was taken aback by the reaction, probably mainly because of the type of stories that I do, that they just were spreading, and my follower count was rising.
Yes.
And so then I kind of figured out, like how to tell stories in this new format. It was a new challenge for me, and I started to really enjoy it. So now I look forward to that. I mean, you could look at it like it's, we're being forced to do yet another new thing at work. You could look at it like that, but I look at it as we are definitely reaching a new audience. And I see it when I'm at the Mall of America and someone comes up to me, hey, I love your videos. And I'll hear, either TikTok or Instagram or X, from different people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm reaching people that never reached before.
So are you just that good speaking extemporaneously? Because I assume you don't have a prompter, do you?
I script it out or at least outline it out.
Yeah, but because the key on that length is you gotta there can be no fat, right? It's gotta be, you get to it really fast, but a lot of the stuff you're talking about is complicated. These aren't always easy stories. I think that's another thing you've been very successful at, is you distill them in a way that everybody can understand them, where they don't feel like, wait a minute, I need a lot more after the minute and a half. You do have a sense of wherever you're going on that specific day.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of been, something I've been good at for much of my career, is making something complicated easy to understand, shorten it up. And so that just kind of played naturally into some of my strengths when it came to that kind of thing. But I enjoy sitting down, and there's no time limit. If I need to take 2 minutes, I can. And just, here's how I would explain it to a family member so you understand this issue.
Text from Ed in St. Paul. Excited to pick up and read the book. Will you ask Lou, if it's not a spoiler, what the outcome for Atlas was in court? How far do you want to go?
I'm completely fine. It's in the news. He's in prison right now. And so there's plenty of other twists along the way. There's
a lot of ground we haven't covered. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
So we didn't give away. You'll still very much enjoy the book, knowing that he is currently in prison.
Did he cooperate at all
in
the book? Was there any?
No.
I assume you tried.
Yes, and I tried harder with Colleen, who it was
Colleen Larson, his girlfriend, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that she's still in love with Tim, Atlas.
And what's her backstory?
She come from a good family. She has parents and siblings. They're involved with the Taekwondo. And she just started to get groomed by Atlas, at a pretty young age, and just believed everything he said. She went to college. She has a degree, and she was 24 years old when this whole attempted murder plot came to fruition. So she was old enough to know better.
This book sounds fascinating. I will order it. Can Lou talk about what the first book, Vanished in Vermilion, is all about, for those not familiar?
It's a cold case that I covered when I was in South Dakota. It was in 1971. 2 high school juniors disappeared on their way to an end-of-the-year party. And it was a mystery in Vermilion, South Dakota for decades. And it went a lot of different directions. A man was falsely charged with murdering them. And eventually it was found that there was no murder at all. And so I explore all of that and get answers for the people of why certain things happened along the way.
Do you have time for one more segment? Are you hurting? You tell me. If you got to go, you got to go. You're pretty tight. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll leave it there. Because next time we have you on, I want to get to some of the stories that are current. Some of them you're involved with. Some of them you have been involved with, because I feel like there's still so much meat on the bone. I'll leave you with one more text. Why does it seem many in mainstream media want to discredit Nick Shirley?
Well, Nick Shirley, he didn't actually prove anything. He raised suspicion. And so I think a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that he proved something with what his video showed. He didn't exactly prove it. And so there hasn't been any charges that have come from it. I wouldn't say that people, maybe some people do want to discredit him, but I don't know. That's just the thing that I want people to realize is what you're seeing is somebody, making a scene and raising suspicion, and just know that that's not the same as proving that something happened. The investigations into the fraud take surveillance, multiple mornings, see how many kids are coming to these daycares, and then comparing it to what they're billing. So,
and ultimately court cases.
And if I tried to do the same thing, right, and it turned out that they were closed that day that I was in front of their place filming, I'd get in huge trouble. So maybe that's the motivation for some people. I wanted to.
It's the great irony of it is that it's not even a matter of discrediting. It's like you say, we had all these other cases that were proven in court, and that's a lot of what you covered. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't as sexy as that moment via video that you've got him walking up to a storefront.
Right.
And as you say, some of it might indicate there was fraud taking place, but none of it was proven on the basis just because somebody is shouting it loudly and proclaiming, oh, here's what I saw, and here's who came in here and who didn't came in here. I'm still flummoxed by why. Well, I guess I'm not, because it's a TV world in which it's very visual. But that, I don't think has anything to do with discrediting him. It's saying it's not as persuasive and conclusive as cases that were reported on over a period of time, developed in a courtroom, and ultimately led to convictions, many of which you covered.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, state leaders like to say there's only X amount of fraud because that's the only ones that have been prosecuted. Obviously, there's more fraud than what has been prosecuted. But the process to get there is important. And that's the way that these investigations have to work.
Last thing I promise. The ongoing debate about is it multi-millions or is it billions? Mm-hmm. I think you and I have gotten into that occasionally, but it still seems to be this debate where the Star Tribune has said, well, okay, we've come up with, I think they said 200 million in that range. There have been other reporting very differently. Where are you on that whole issue?
I think that we sat down and we showed a path where it gets to $1 billion or over $1 billion. And I'd be comfortable reporting that officials say that it's more than $1 billion. We can see how it's going to get there. Mm-hmm. It hasn't literally been convicted over $1 billion yet. Right. But that's what we see. Whether it's $9 billion, like Joe Thompson said, I have no way of knowing. I don't have those internal numbers. That's what he says. But $200 million would be lower than what we know it's going to be.
Is the office, as it's currently gutted, with the numbers who have left, does that make it far less likely that in short order we're going to get as many prosecutions as we otherwise might have in many of these cases and those that have been developed more recently?
For sure in short order, but the Trump administration is really helping them now with manpower, and so I think we will see batches of fraud cases come. I just don't know how soon it'll be.
The new book is called Mastermind, A True Story of Obsession, Survival, and Justice. KARE 11's Lou Raguse. Best of luck. I'm sure it's going to do well. The last one did great, and it's good to have you in studio. I keep waiting for it to reach a point, though, where it becomes a national bestseller, and then you say, I don't need this KARE 11 sense. I'm just going to become a writer.
Well, for the foreseeable future, I am at KARE 11, okay, so that's good news for our state here, I think.
Good to see you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Lou Raguse. We'll get a pause in Louis in about an hour and 15 minutes. Vikings free agency news to discuss? Anything hot off the presses right now that we've located?
Not that I've seen, unless I missed something during Raguse.
So tomorrow might be the day at quarterback, but maybe not. Who's to say? Oh, by the way, I don't think we got to this yesterday. Who was the Packers' backup quarterback that everybody loved?
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. He ends up in Miami, correct?
Yeah,
with pretty good money. That's always the most crucial question, isn't it? A quarterback will play and impress just enough in snippets as a backup to where in a quarterback-starved league, people start projecting. Sometimes because they think it's the right thing to do on a given player. Sometimes I think it's because they have to. Because the options there aren't enough good options out there at the position. Mm-hmm. So you have to say, well, what about Malik Willis? Can he be the guy again? Because he wasn't once very good at it. Now in this new, after maturing a little bit, because we're not asking him to come in, twice a season. We're asking him to come in and be our starting quarterback. We're building this thing around him, right? So we'll see how that goes. If you'd not heard earlier, Geno Smith now off the table as a Vikings option because he's been traded from the Vegas Raiders to the New York Jets, back to New York with the Jets for, I believe you said, a 6th-round draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. I got some Wolves stuff I want to get to. We may be able to get to it now, or I think I'm going to try to squeeze in news on the march at the bottom of this hour. Louis at 5:30, top 5 at 5 yet to come.
Percent chance you watch the Wolves game tonight at 10 o'clock.
The whole game?
Yeah.
5%. I mean, my guess is I'll get there.
You'll start?
But my guess is I will.
I don't think I can make it.
Well, that's more of an indictment on you than me because I'm so old. And so the assumption is, well, at my age, you got to have the teeth in the glass by 9:30. Although, frankly, I was just as capable of being in that position at age 40.
Yeah, like me.
As I am now, which is you. That's a very good point. Unlikely. Maybe if something juicy happens. Is LeBron going to play? Do we know? Because, again, the Lakers have tended to be better off when one of their big three
it's crazy
doesn't play. Right? So I don't know if we should be, if you're a Wolves fan, if you're rooting for LeBron to play or rooting him to stay, for him to stay out, because the latter might mean the Lakers sometimes play better.
He's listed as a game-time decision with his hip injury.
Are we full strength as far as we know?
Yeah, in fact, everybody's on board, even Baby Baguette, because the Iowa Wild are playing the South Bay Lakers.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow, I think.
Really? Okay.
So all of our G League guys can actually be around if we want them.
That's outstanding. What do you think the odds, if they post odds on everything?
Yeah.
Could they, if they posted odds that at some point during the 2025-26 NBA season, Luke Cornett would become a lightning rod name, basically you could say a whipping boy.
Yeah.
For those upset with a couple of the comments he made, was this? No, I guess he wrote. Wasn't this in a blog?
He did a big statement. Yeah, I don't know if it was a blog or something. I just saw it online. A big open letter, basically, to ask the Hawks to reconsider one of their promotional nights, correct?
That is correct. Luke Cornett is a Spurs guy, correct? And so the basics, as I understand it, is this was getting a lot of attention on the NBA network, Sirius XM. The Hawks had announced a promotional night in conjunction with I guess you could call it a well-established, hugely successful gentleman's club, strip club, gentleman's club, whatever you want to call it.
As right? Louis called them a couple of months ago, one of those dancing bars.
One of those dancing bars.
One of those
exactly
dancing
it.
bars.
And it became famous in part because if you remember when Lou Williams, I was about to say Lou Hudson. No, he played here.
Gophers.
Lou Williams escaped the bubble and went to Atlanta and hung out.
That's right.
Is it called Magic City? I think it's Magic City.
Yep.
And the big joke was they got great lemon pepper wings. He just went there for the wings. That's all it was about. He was hungry.
Which, by the way, apparently was verified by other sources.
The wings are tremendous.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Yep.
So apparently the Hawks were going to have this promotional night celebrating the place, including there were going to be hoodies. There were going to be some presentations, the whole bit. There was not going to be any dancing.
Right. They were going to sell the wings, though.
Were they?
Yes, the wings were going to be a part of it, too.
Okay. So, as I understand it, then he puts up a blog, or writes in a blog, he being Luke Cornett, that he believed that the Hawks, if the Hawks didn't get to a better place, as in rethink their position, that the league should step in because he felt it was, quote, disrespectful to women. What I didn't expect, I'll be honest, this isn't one of those where I actually have that strong of an opinion either way. I tend to be a live and let live guy on that sort of thing. But what I was gobsmacked by is the amount of blowback and pushback he got. There is a segment of the media that is and some players that's absolutely pilloried Luke Cornett. How dare he? He knows nothing of the Atlanta culture. He knows nothing of the tradition that goes beyond what any of you might think of. In fact, who was the TV talk show? Michelle Beadle. I can't even say what she said in defending the club, that it was more than a bleak bar, is what she said.
Got it.
And a lot of people feel that way, that has become, whether it should or not, it has become part of the civic fabric of Atlanta, Georgia. Now, we can argue about that. I lived 1 year in Atlanta. I don't think it existed then. I don't believe. That was a long time ago.
But, I'm not the police.
What's that?
I'm not the police. We're not prying.
That's right.
Live and let live.
Live and let live. But here's the part that I will say surprised me. Is it fair to say, and I'd love to hear from some women about this via the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line, that men especially, because it's considered a gentleman's club, right? A men's bar, basically, and it's naked women, I think have been educated and schooled into thinking that what's being done there is not illegal, but that in a perception world, it's a bad look, right? And it is there are many leaders who've said, yeah, again, it's legal, but it's the objectification of women. I mean, we've got people out there who say you got to apologize if you go to a Hooters, let alone a club like this. So I would say, and again, I didn't read everything that Cornett wrote, but I would say that I'm surprised that given what we've been conditioned to believe is a position that a lot of individuals, especially women, hold on this whole concept, that I'm surprised he would be getting pilloried for his own opinion. Part of it was, well, where were you on domestic abuse issues? Where were you on this example? Which I don't think is a very good argument, because we get into that mode of who decides. That's more of a purity test where you're going, who decides how many different kinds of subjects that you are obligated to discuss on any issue. I mean, he has a right to that opinion, I would say. You have a right to disagree with him. But everything I think we've been led to believe is that at the very best, this would be an uncomfortable union, right? That doesn't perhaps convey the best message if you believe in general that you are then participating in or tacitly endorsing objectification. Now, you can say, well, the leagues, they're frauds on this, how they decide what they go after and what they don't, and then there are examples of domestic abuse brought up. But I'm not sure. I mean, in many of those cases, players have been suspended. The league has acted. In this case, I'm assuming part of the reason Cornett was bringing it up was nobody was acting on it, or nobody even seemed to be discussing it. So you tell me. I don't know that I would even have known about this. He became, though, but the lightning rod guy, and he's sort of been dismissed because, let's face it, he's white. That's part of the reason, if we're being honest, he's being dismissed, and he doesn't know anything about it. He never played there. He doesn't know anything about the culture there.
He's never been there.
But I'll ask again, is it good? It can be grandfathered in just on the basis of tradition? Is it as simple as that in one city as opposed to another? Is there any chance? What would be the staying power if the Wolves announced today they were in partnership? They were going to give out hoodies to, I don't even know, Buns and Roses doesn't exist anymore.
But just use it. Use it as an example.
Yeah, I'd say we're gonna celebrate 30 years of Buns and Roses.
Wake up the echoes.
And they got great wings, and then we're gonna sell hoodies or give away hoodies. Buns and Roses hoodies. I have to believe the reaction would be rather swift.
Swift is the word for it.
Would be, what are you doing?
Yes.
You can't, again, I'm not here to be a Puritan, go wherever you want to go, but an organization can't share in that. Now, you can again say the difference is it has been embedded in the culture in Atlanta. It's been around for a long time.
40 years.
40 years, so there you go. But I'm still stunned with how harshly Luke has been has been hammered. Because I'm guessing, I don't even know if he said this, where he's kind of bewildered going, wait a minute, this is what I have been understandably educated to try to better understand and believe, that this is just not a good fit for, again, presumably a sport in which you got kids going, et cetera, that it's great that it exists. Nobody's saying it should be shut down. But does the league want to have this sort of engagement with it, even if in a place where it has become part of the tradition? Your thoughts?
I did hear Marnes today, Marnie Gellner, on the power trip when I was driving the kids back from school. Thankfully, I wasn't listening to this portion of the equation while I was driving them to school, because that's part of it too.
Yes.
Like you go to Magic City night and you got a 9-year-old, you got to talk about that. Now,
you do.
You probably don't back into Magic City night. You're probably, I have a hard time believing you wouldn't have heard about it. But she was talking about how apparently the Hawks kind of did this and didn't really inform the league that they were doing this, which was a point that she brought up where I think this got some attention. Is I don't know how it works in the promotion game. If you have to get them all approved by the league, I would assume you do a little bit, or at least they have to have an idea. And that was part of it too, is that the league wasn't really filled in on this. And I think they did have some issues with it. And that's why Luke Cornett is getting a lot of attention. And I think the league had some reaction to it.
What's interesting is I don't know if at any point the Hawks wanted to reconsider, but to a certain extent, the league did the right thing in taking them off the hook. The league is the bad guy here, and it may well be that the Hawks prefer it. Now, maybe the Hawks weren't even having any second thoughts. I'm not sure, because I think there's also a connection between one of the owners and a documentary that's been done on this establishment.
I'm looking at it right now. Shaquille O'Neal's a part of it.
Yes.
And some other people are a part of it.
And again, I don't have a problem with the documentary. I would say, look, that's just real. It may be cringeworthy. You may not like it. You may, whatever. I'm more live and let live on that sort of activity. But I'm still surprised, like I said, that when Cornette, for whatever reason, comes out of nowhere just to express frustration about now he's getting ripped like, well, the commissioner is caving in to Luke Cornette, which it would be hard for me to believe that was indeed the case. But the position he takes, the idea that he has to explain himself for a position that, as I said, most men have tried to be educated on, in some cases need to be educated on, about a lot of the larger ramifications, to the point where, as I said, you got to whisper about going to Hooters, right? Let alone a strip club, because of just the feeling that there is. You could talk about the wings all you want. You could talk about the tradition all you want. But I heard somebody call into one of the shows this morning to say, but you can't pretend that at the base of it there are not, naked women dancing at this particular place. And if that's your cup of tea, again, fine. And I'm sure there's some women who have no problems going to those places. And I'm not even going to say all the women who are participating in the dancing are victims, because that gets into that whole issue.
Right.
I'm not going to presume any of that. But that he's become the villain in this thing, well, where was he on some of those domestic abuse issues? Well, I'm assuming on several of them, he allowed the NBA to mete out punishment. And they often have. Now, we can argue about whether they've done it enough, whether they've been harsh enough, whether, there's some people who think that even if you serve a punishment, you shouldn't be allowed to play. We can have that debate. Do you take away somebody's right to work forever on that basis? I don't know. But I think the reason he was bringing it up wasn't that there weren't other things that are more important in the pecking order, but because no one was really pushing back. And for whatever reason, he was attempting to do exactly that.
Magic City, was that where Bryant McKinney made his calls to help with the Love Boat? because we brought in the Love Boat women from Atlanta, right? That was one of the allegations.
Yes, that's right.
Was it Magic City specifically, or was it other people? I don't know.
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember, but it was Atlanta.
Like, yeah,
that's true.
And if you're going to Atlanta, where you're going to Magic City probably.
651 guy writes, director of the FBI drinking beers is unacceptable and sad, but the NBA endorsing strip clubs at what should be a family event can drive an opinion out of Dan. Classic. Well, first of all, I didn't say a word about him drinking beer. And I didn't say it was unacceptable. I just said it was embarrassing. The fact that he presented himself as if he won a medal. That was my issue with him. That's not that difficult. I would say for the league, the position I am taking is actually defending Luke Cornett's, questioning exactly how much sense this relationship makes. That's not exactly endorsing it, but I'm not here necessarily in general to. I don't feel strongly enough about it to say, well, here's what you have to do in all these situations. I'm actually here more standing up for him, which is not exactly refusing to take a stand on it. If an NBA team wants to celebrate domestic violence, I expect Luke would speak up then too. I see the point that he's making there. But I've seen a lot of reporters, male and female, say, come on now. I saw Courtney Cronin, once the story broke that the commissioner was stepping in, I think she said, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And the oh, come on is interesting to me because it's contrary to, well, again, what I think has been for the last 25 years, an attempt to constantly hold people accountable for these sorts of associations in terms of any kind of official associations involving teams and the message that's conveyed. So the contradiction is what interests me. And I don't know, again, if it's just because this place is so popular and has been around so long that it's almost viewed as, well, no, yeah, you're right. All that stuff's true about objectifying women, but it's okay to have this official relationship because this place gets grandfathered in on the basis of the fact that it's just part of the landscape in Atlanta, Georgia. So there you have it. I do want to try to get into some news on the March things as well. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. We got a lot of good texts coming in. Alex writes, and this has come up, would you rather have to explain the Karl Malone statue in Utah or Magic City to your kids? The assumption is that it's an either or. The assumption is that there's no point. It becomes a silly way to dismiss the issue at hand, as far as I'm concerned. Now, can you say there are cases where there's hypocrisy? Maybe. But we're back to court cases. We're back to what has been indeed proven, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, that doesn't take away from some pushback regarding this particular activity. It's become one of the main pushbacks. The other, like I said, is, well, where are these same individuals when it comes to more serious issues? And there are more serious issues than this, 100% true. I also think the punishment and the visibility, the understanding of holding individuals accountable for domestic abuse has gotten, we've gotten to a much, much better place. Are we as good a place as we should be? I don't know. But I'm just scratching my head. You're lying if you say, in general, culturally, there has not been an attempt over a period of decades to almost have to explain if you have tried to create any kind of, again, professional connections between organizations and institutions like this one. It's just, as I mentioned here, it would get hammered. I think almost from the beginning. I don't know what the distinction is other than history, I guess. Let's get a pause in. Do we need to pause here? No.
We do.
That's right. I got behind because I went along with Lou Raguse. Top 5 at 5 yet to come. I got a couple news on the March issues to get to as well. One involving the Minneapolis City Council. Stay tuned. That's the follow-up sounder. Where's News on the March? Page is that on? There it is.
News on the March.
Let me give you a couple of headlines here that got my attention, including this one via CBS News. I don't know if this has been fleshed out since this reporting earlier today. U.S. intelligence assets have begun to see indications Iran is taking steps to deploy mines in Strait of Hormuz shipping lane. Iran is using smaller crafts that can carry 2 to 3 mines each. While Iran's mine stock isn't publicly known, estimates over the years have ranged from roughly 2,000 to 6,000 naval mines of Iranian, Chinese, and Russian-made variants. Now, we talked about the possibility that at any moment the president, regardless of the ramifications of it, could say, we're done. It's over. We've won. War's over, and we're moving on. We've made our point. But that doesn't necessarily mean it is done because of what's already taken place in the larger ramifications of it. This would be what they in the business call a game changer. If this story is accurate, and that's the road, and that Iran attempts to go down, because there were some big shot military types who used to serve in the U.S. military in positions of great authority who warned of this and were worried about it. The old, unintended consequences thing, that you think you have control over it and maybe not so much. So if there's anything new on that, we'll let you know, but that most assuredly got my attention. Did you see the Peggy Noonan description of your guy, Pete Hegseth?
I may have, because I've seen a couple of things floating around. I don't know if it's specific to her, but go ahead.
He's something between an excitable morning TV anchor and the rooster who thought he brought the dawn.
Ouch.
It's a hell of a line.
She's great.
Even if you love Hegseth, it's unfair. You gotta smile. That's I would suggest that's pretty accurate, and it's one hell of a line as well.
By the way, I need to close out of. I was doing some Magic City due diligence.
Oh no, you in trouble?
No.
Oh,
It looks like an interesting place.
Oh.
But I just got a message that popped up on my computer. Hi, I'm Fancy, Magic City's AI service agent. What can I help you with?
You're kidding.
Yeah. So they have AI at Magic City. You can make reservations. It's not cheap.
They ain't messing around. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Fancy.
Fancy? How's that spelled?
With a Y.
With a Y, not I?
No IE. Yeah.
F-A-N. I thought it might be C-I.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yep. It's just CY.
Okay.
So I'm going to close. Are we done talking about Magic City? I can get out of this?
I think you can get out of this for now. I think that will indeed work. New York Times reporter to the president yesterday. You just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. Why are you the only person saying this? It's a good question for New York Times guy. And there was a Trump Sirwanga. He basically shrugged his shoulders and said, because I just don't know enough about it, which is not a real good answer from the President of the United States. I'm going to throw a tomahawk in there because he said
the commander
a lot of people have tomahawks. We sell some of them. People buy them from us. And there is, in that tragedy, it's been said before. It's a horrific outcome. If indeed we are responsible, you are better off just owning up to it. It's not unprecedented. It's awful. It is part of war, which is further evidence that this is a war. And I think you don't take away your responsibility by owning up to it, but I think you end up looking worse by attempting to run from it. You can say all the obvious stuff. This is not something we do deliberately. This is stuff that the Iranian administration would do as a matter of course, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, to me, that would be a much better approach to take on this particular story. Also, let me see if I can get to. We had homemade bombs thrown outside of the new New York City mayor's home. Was it just over the weekend? I believe
a couple days ago.
A couple of days ago. This would be under the classification of you cannot be taken seriously as a news outlet if this is how you frame the story. Did you see the CNN framing?
No.
2 Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York Saturday morning for what could have been a normal day, enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. But in less than an hour, their lives would drastically change as the pair would be arrested for throwing homemade bombs. That's insulting. That's attempting to trivialize or to somehow minimize a terrorist act. And it's frankly exactly what ends up costing the so-called mainstream media. That who are you trying to protect? And would you be as protective if it was, some far-right lunatic, presumably trying to state whatever his case might be? The answer is no, you wouldn't. And by the way, the message got to CNN. Let me see if I can find it. They ultimately, I don't see it in front of me, but they ultimately all but apologized for the framing and said it doesn't even meet our standards journalistically. And it's too bad that they probably had to do that, one could say, under pressure. I don't know if they otherwise would have, but come on. Is that following the story? No, that's in some odd way, like you're protecting someone. You're doing the exact opposite, and you're making people feel that you're somehow trying to protect. There should be no protection, no matter who's responsible for it when bombs are involved. Here's the CNN update. A post regarding the 2 individuals arrested for throwing homemade bombs outside the New York City mayor's home failed to reflect the gravity of the incident, thereby breaching the editorial standards we require for all our reporting, is therefore been deleted. I mean, I'll give them credit for at least going that far, but it's ridiculous. Locally, did you see this too? I'm going to try to squeeze in a couple more news on the March items. Chief O'Hara was put in the meat grinder at from the Community Commission on Police Oversight. I think this took place yesterday. It was a public meeting, and in the meeting, he was accused. Should say the city's police department was accused, along with him as a leader, of failing to protect people during the surge of ICE operations in the Twin Cities, that Minneapolis police officers did not intervene when federal agents used excessive force and prioritized crowd control over community safety, blah, blah, blah. You want to talk about a disconnect here? Name me an individual. I mean, the original demand in many parts of the community was, don't you get near these ICE operations. Don't you even get near the idea of creating perimeters that will make it easier for them to do their job. Stay away. Wasn't that the warning? How disingenuous is it now to say, well, where were you when things got out of hand? As the chief pointed out, whatever we think of the ICE operation, and we've certainly on this show think it was illegal, it was dramatically over the line, it was destructive, it was unnecessary, it was pathetic. But whatever you believe of that, the notion that now it was up to the police, that the Minneapolis police are supposed to be in open confrontation with federal authorities, who wins in that? Where does that go? All that would have done is drawn another probably 5,000 troops into this town. Makes no sense. We talked about this on TV, and we never talked about it on radio. The performance stuff that goes on in Minneapolis sometimes, and it was laid out very nicely in a Star Tribune piece, I think by Roper, and this goes back a couple of weeks ago, where he noted that the progressive majority of the Minneapolis City Council, at least for a period of time until cooler heads prevailed, attempted to perform on the subject of, we're going to scrutinize the liquor license renewals of 2 hotels that allegedly housed ICE agents during the surge. Now, ultimately, they gave in on that. but not before there was a lot of performance on it, which falls under the classification of cutting your nose to spite your face. As Roper writes, progressives on the council, in an ironic bit of performative politics, seem keen on kneecapping the very places those visitors would stay. The notion that city leaders have been imploring people to come visit, to help revive the economy, and now you actually, because performance politics is so important to you, you're going to pound your fist and say, should we really give them those liquor licenses? That was to the Renaissance Minneapolis Hotel at the Depot and the Canopy by Hilton. And as he points out, the hotels are in a pretty tough spot during the surge, right, in terms of what you're supposed to do. But the notion that the city wins with this kind of performance politics kind of tells you where their minds are of these individuals, at least some of these individuals on the city council. And it looks cool to beat your chest and say, well, we got to hold them accountable. How about we'll show them who wins and who loses in that environment. And ultimately, I think they must have even been brought to it or had finally figured it out, not before time was wasted on the performance aspect of this whole thing that made absolutely no sense. That we're gonna take it out on businesses caught between a rock and a hard place. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But it's all, to me, part of the same piece. I look, the city cops were in a no-win situation. There was no way out. None of it was easy. And I'm not even here to say they did everything 100% great. But I just find it curious that if on the front end you're told, don't get near this, don't aid and abet, but you better be there in case things go bad to take care of us, that's way too easy after the fact. And it's not putting the onus or keeping the onus on where it belongs. The feds, who came in irresponsibly, criminally, and did what they did over a period of time. You're just stay on the high road and don't spend as much time on performing. Top 5 at 5.
Give you the latest in the National Football League, including some quarterback stuff, and get you ready for a late night in Los Angeles.